and long may, the E4 continue to use it. I keep thinking I'll get the phone call any day, to say they've changed things and they don't want me anymore. But because nothing stays the same forever. But it's lovely, and I'm really enjoying it while it's going on.
I guess, when did you realise that the adverts and the voiceover itself was becoming such a success with people?
I don't really know. When you are a voice artist, you kind of live in this media bubble where you don't really know what's going on out there, to be honest with you. That sounds terribly sort of grand, but it's true. I mean, I spend my life in darkened rooms shouting into padded walls, and then I travel home on my own and sit at home and just watch TV. And most of my friends don't talk about what I do very much, and so I don't really know what's going on. Is there a following? Do I have a fan club? Have I got a fan club, love?
I mean, since you did that voiceover, I mean, how much has it impacted on your career? Because I kind of looked at your resume and you seem to have gotten work regardless. I mean, did the volume of requests and such change when you began doing the voiceover?
Well, yes, there's been I get asked to do that voice an awful lot, and I do a variant of it on shows like The X Factor and Britain's Got Talent, which is a little bit more kind of commercial, a bit more, aggressive, rather than doddery. So that's really my signature voice now, I think you could say. It's what I do mostly, although I still carry on doing all the other bits and pieces. I do a lot of documentaries, you see, as well, with just my ordinary, normal speaking voice. And nobody would put the two together, I don't think. I do, Discovery, National Geographic Channel, loads of documentaries, and nobody really would think that it was the same voice. At least I hope they wouldn't. Because if I did a documentary and spoke like this, people might think it was rather strange. Ah, yes, the Golden Eagle.
See, I would watch that.
Well, maybe I've gotten onto something there. Maybe I should suggest that to the powers that be at the Discovery Channel.
Do you watch a lot of the stuff that you voice? Do you watch some of that back?
If I can, yeah, I always try and watch some of it. I can't watch everything, but I am absolutely glued to X Factor. I've never ever missed a single episode of that. I'm quite sad, really. It's one of my I just love that show so much, and it's been very good to me. On the exposure side, people know that voice is now. But apart from that, I mean, just the format of the show is brilliant, and I just love working with Simon Cowell and their whole idea of making a star. I mean, it's so commercial, and so I know my strings are being pulled when I watch it. The way it's edited, it's just brilliant. The amount of effort that goes into it, and I know how much effort goes into that show. It's a phenomenal amount of work and hours on behalf of hundreds of people. It is the very pinnacle of live entertainment television from my point of view. I just think the production standards are so high that it's a joy to watch, and it's human drama, it's funny, it's everything. It's a perfect Saturday night live entertainment show.
You know something? I think it's quite unique, though, that I was watching some old Harry Hill, and I know you did voiceover for him, kind of taking the piss out of the X Factor, and yet you voiceovering for them. Has there ever been an issue with that when you do a show that kind of parodies what they're doing and then do that very show?
Not really, no. I think it's very, very hard. I know Harry and Peter Kay found it very difficult when he did his Peter Kay's Got the Pop Factor. But, speaking to both of them, they just found it very difficult, very hard. They found it very hard to parody a show that is almost a parody in itself. Yeah, exactly. It's just so, the X Factor is so larger than life. It's so brash. It's so ridiculous. It's so camp that to try and parody it is very difficult because, it's just so much like a parody in its own right. So I think me doing when I did Harry Hill, for instance, it wasn't really taking the piss out of X Factor. It was more taking the piss out of Britney Spears' performance on the X Factor, which again was more like a parody. So it's very hard to do because it was just so funny.
The other thing as well is the Louis Walsh thing, which I absolutely love, which I think has actually done better for him than because it kind of, when you're in pop culture and you're mocked like that, and then you've got the show, I think it makes him a better person. He seems to take it quite fine. So
he's never said anything to me, and nobody else ever has. So I wouldn't do it if it was unkind, but I know I know that it's all done in really, in the best possible taste, and it's all done with affection. Totally done with affection. I would never.
Having mostly done voiceover, and then you started to do adverts on camera with E4. Were there any concerns on your part about doing the on-camera work, since you'd probably be more recognised as a result and lose that anonymity that voice actors usually benefit from?
I don't think so, really. I mean, I think in order to be recognised in the street, you've really got to be on TV an awful lot, and if I'm just doing the odd little film for E4 here and there, well, it's going to get maybe a couple of 100,000 people might watch it, and they wouldn't really particularly recognise me. I've never been recognised in the street or anywhere, which is really one of the joys of my job, is that you can, just go about your life being fairly anonymous. I couldn't think of anything worse than being famous and being out on, having to go out into a shop or, go walk down the street and people stopping you for autographs. And I used to work with Bruce Forsyth, and we'd go out around the town in Leeds, and he'd be seen out there in restaurants and things, and people would always be coming over for autographs. He didn't mind; he was very gracious about it. But I do know that I would absolutely hate that. So my job, you can lead a relatively obscure life, which is great.
Speaking of Bruce Forsyth, there's been this debate at the moment about him and whether he should. I know Justin Lee Collins came out and said something. There's this whole age debate with the BBC. What do you reckon about that?
Which debate was this?
It's the Bruce Forsyth thing. Justin Lee Collins came out and said that Bruce Forsyth should retire because he's got to a certain age where he's slowing down. And there's been a huge debate with Strictly Come Dancing. I think one of the judges, there's controversy that she's too old to be on that sort of thing.
I don't know. I don't watch that show at all. I haven't seen Strictly Come Dancing. It's not the sort of show I want to see. But Bruce is a law unto himself. He's a legend, isn't he? I mean, I think if it's a bit like the Terry Wogan discussion we had earlier on. I mean, when is the right time to go? I think it's probably the right time to go when people start having conversations like that about you. In other words, are you up to the job? Is the show suffering? Is he actually too doddery and not with it to know what's going on? I don't know. I haven't seen him, but I have heard people talking that way. So, maybe it is the time for Bruce to consider retiring. I'm amazed that he's still going. He really loves what he does, obviously. So good luck to him. As long as the British public want him there, I suppose they will.
Oh yeah, exactly. And he's at an age now where I was quite surprised by how old he was, and he still does it as Bruce Forsyth has always done, which is just great.
Yes.
He's such a legend.
Interestingly, I do know that on that show he refuses to wear an earpiece. So when he's in front of camera, standing there with his co-presenter, what's her name, Vernon's wife, I mean, I've had a senior moment. Maybe I should retire. Tess Daly, of course, who co-presents with him. She has to stand. She wears an earpiece, and she has to stand near him and put a hand round his back and tap him twice on the elbow to stop, and once to start. So and then he's 3 taps to make what he's saying slow down, and 4 taps to speed up. They have this kind of tactile code that goes on. I think it's quite funny. So next time you're watching that show, watch out for her hand going around the back of Bruce's jacket.
What's been your favourite voice acting job so far? And on the other token, what's been your least favourite?
Oh, most favourite one. Oh, let's think. I think I really like working with Vic and Bob on Reeves and Mortimer, and that was great fun.
Oh, I didn't know you did that. Oh, right. Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. I did Reeves and Mortimer. Smell of Reeves and Mortimer. The other favourite one, I suppose, was working on. Let's think. I really enjoyed Price is Right with Bruce Forsyth. That was where we spent 7 years not 7 years, but 7 seasons over a couple of weeks up in Leeds in residence up there at Yorkshire Television, and that was great fun. And I did a show called Guinness World Record Smashed, which was on Sky One recently. That was with Connie Huck, and it was a very good. I did commentary on that, and I'd never done commentary before, so that was interesting to do.